this new virus is breaking through the blood-brain barrier. And as someone who has spent decades studying cognitive neuroscience, that was not funny at all. Like, that was holy bleep. Someday they're going to want to know what actually is going on with these children and why they continue to struggle cognitively, behaviorally, mentally, emotionally since the start of this pandemic. And when they want to know, I am ready. The younger generation, they care about this. They know about this from a climate perspective because they grew up through a pandemic. Like, they understand and they live it. They're in schools every day. They're watching.
What would you make mandatory and what would you ban immediately? Hi, thanks for joining the FAN podcast, Read This. Today's guest is Liesl McConchie. She is also the executive director of the board of the Corsi Rosenthal Foundation. Thanks for coming, Liesl.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yay! All right, well, let's dive right into it. I'm interested in how you got involved with clean air in schools in the first place. What was the story there?
Yeah, that is a story, that's for sure. Well, so my background is in education. So I started my career over 25 years ago as a teacher. So I've taught K through 12, mostly taught mathematics. And then I transitioned into a consulting role where I travel the world and consult with schools and help them understand how the brain naturally learns. So I translate cognitive neuroscience for schools. And so throughout my research and time studying the brain, I came across plenty of research around how the built environment impacts cognition, impacts attention, impacts memory, impacts many things about the brain. So I came into this with a little bit of a foundational learning. But it really wasn't until the start of the COVID pandemic in 2020 that really accelerated my learning. And it came in some really interesting ways because I am a really, really cool person. And when I say cool person, I mean, like, I spend my Friday nights reading academic peer-reviewed journals. Like, that's how cool I am.
Amazing.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Like, you all want to be my friend. I know.
Yeah.
So like, that's what I do. It's what I love to do. I love diving into research and I love translating it for educators. And because I'm constantly sifting through all of the research that's coming out around the brain, that in 2020, the research that I was coming across was pretty darn alarming. You see, it was this weird collision, right? So out in the world, I'm hearing the anecdotal stories of people like joking and laughing, like, ha, 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 I got this new thing called COVID and I can't smell my kids' diapers. And I'm hearing other people like, ha, ha, ha. Okay, no one laughs like that, but you get what I'm saying. And they're like, hey, like, I can chug hot sauce and I can't even taste it.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So all these things anecdotally I'm hearing out there in the world. And then on my Friday nights, I'm diving into the research and what I'm seeing is matching up with what I'm hearing out there in the world. And that is that this new virus, as you know, in 2020, this new SARS-CoV-2 virus is breaking through the blood-brain barrier. And as someone who has spent decades studying cognitive neuroscience, that was not funny at all. Like, that was holy bleep. This is just not your everyday virus. Like, this is no joke. Most viruses don't, and they're impacting regions of the brain. And I was like, we don't know what's going on here. Like, this is terrifying. So that's how I kind of got into this world, because once I realized how dangerous this virus was from a brain perspective, I know a lot of people in those days were talking about like the respiratory impacts of it. I was coming at it from a brain perspective because that's my background. And I was like, okay, this is not something I want. This is definitely not something I want for my children. And so then as a systems thinker, I was like, okay, so how do I protect my children? How do I make sure that we don't get it? And to know how to get it, you need to know how it's transmitted. So that's what dove me into understanding a little bit about aerosol science and clean air. That's the quick version.
I want to go back a little bit to when you were first like starting out. So because I'm just trying to recall our first conversation where we talked about this, but you had started aggregating this information. You have a background, in neuroscience as well and how it correlates and relates to children. What were your thoughts about how the school system was approaching it? Because they tried a lot of things, right? They had these shields that were going up. They had weird plexiglass things. They had, this 6-foot thing that they weren't even adhering to because of the plexiglass. And it was such a weird time, right?
Yeah, every kid had like their own tub of supplies that like no one else could touch. It was very much fomite driven. They were definitely, susceptible, just like everyone else was, to the massive amounts of misinformation that was being communicated around how this disease transmits. And a lot of it was fomite driven. And so schools were just like wiping things down. I mean, teachers in schools, they're not aerosol scientists. They're not public health advocates. They're not epidemiologists. They're not virologists. They're teachers and they're the masters of their craft. But so much of public health falls ultimately on schools. And so there is a degree of understanding that is needed in the school systems. Now, who should hold that knowledge is a conversation that we could really dive into. But, think back to what teachers were doing back then. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yep.
They were reinventing an entire education system.
Yep.
On the fly.
And just on the fly, like overnight, just like working miracles to support our children to stay safe, stay healthy, to still be learning, to still have access. Some of the schools I was consulting with at that time, they were like, Liesl, we're just trying to make sure that our kids are still being fed, that are still getting food. And they're like 30% of our school district, they don't even have internet at home. So, it was a time. It was a time, right? And so while some of us had the privilege to be able to dive into the academic research and be staying up to date, these teachers were just trying to take care of our kids and try to teach them virtually.
Or both, right? I mean, a number of teachers, well, I guess two main points here. One is, I don't know that a lot of people know this, but I think it's an important piece of information, which is a large number of kids in the United States in particular, the meals they get during the day are from school. They don't get them at home. The only meals they get are from school. And so to not have that, right, to not be able to go. And so, I mean, forget internet access. They're just not able to eat.
Right. In terms of hierarchy of needs, it's like, who cares how to conjugate irregular verbs in French when you haven't eaten?
Yeah. So I think that's a big deal. But, and then there were
no
also...
offense to the French teachers. Sorry.
French is a very important language.
Sure.
We've heard. But then the other aspect of that is that a lot of teachers, not even just learning to teach remotely, a lot of them had when schools were kind of partially open, they had to teach both online and in school, right? And so now you've got this
insane
bifurcated, crazy bifurcated, and they're already overloaded, and they're already trying to take care of their own families and trying to figure out their own stuff. And
Yep.
Yeah.
So I hold no blame for teachers during that period to not have a deep understanding of,
right,
air changes per hour and, everything that we were learning about, and microns and levels of MERV filtration and everything like that. But I do hold our public health leaders accountable for not educating them, because schools are the most densely populated space where children with young developing immune systems and respiratory systems and all systems are together for an extended period of time. There's nothing like it. There's no other place where you put people in the same space for that long in such a small space where they're that close together, which is why I've targeted schools.
I've had this question because it's such a weird question, right? Do you think that is what drove the messaging that kids don't get COVID, right? Kids, like that was an important aspect of that piece of history, which was, oh, well, kids don't get COVID and they don't spread it, and it's, it doesn't harm them, right? So it's okay, right? To me, it was a very, like, I can go back, and I know you, since you do a lot of research too, there's a straight line for me for, this sort of like waterfall thing where it was like, oh, we're not sure what's going to happen. So there was a very specific period of time where I think people kind of took it seriously, forget the administration and what they were pushing. But people were like, okay, well, there's lockdowns. We've gone into this next phase, and not that the lockdowns were long, but we've gone to this next phase. And it was like, we got to open. And part of the messaging emanated from getting schools to open. And a good portion of that messaging, from my recollection, was it's fine. It's no big deal for kids, right? No big deal. If they do get it, they don't really get it. They don't get it, but they do get it, but then they can't spread it, but they can spread. And then if they do, it's not harmful.
The whole trajectory of like, they don't get it. Oh, maybe they might get it, but it'll be mild. They can't pass it. And just like the whole path that we've seen happen, which is just complete trash.
Well, they needed to get parents back to work, right? They needed to get
all the economy.
They needed to have parents in the right.
Well, and that that messaging flies in the face of literally every virus we're aware of, right, historically. And so, it was an absurd timeline.
I spent over 25 years like working in schools. Like, I know how much sickness flies through schools. Yeah. Like, I've lived it for years as a teacher. I've lived it as my kids started school. Like, anyone who has worked in a school or has had kids in schools know that schools are hot boxes for viral transmission.
Yeah. How could they not be? Like you were saying, there's no other place where you're packing that many kids and that many people. Even like offices aren't even as densely populated as school classrooms are.
And so that's how that's why, one, I know schools and I'm passionate about improving our education system. Like, that is what I've dedicated my life to. And I have kids and I know schools, and that's where a lot of transmission happens. And so it was a natural fit for me to step into this space and to advocate in that space because I know it so well. This is a marathon. It's not going to be fun. It's not sexy. It is a marathon, and we are in it for the long run. And it might not happen by the time our kids finish school. I don't know. I sure hope so. But for the sake of everyone's children, we're going to keep fighting.
Yeah. So I think it'll happen. I think this was, if you look historically, which we talk about a lot, actually, if you look historically at public health movements, right, smoking in restaurants, clean water, Semmelweis, right? Washing your hands. Used to be a big deal, right?
Right.
He got committed, right, for washing his hand, or for suggesting that you wash your hands in between. It's crazy, yeah. And so I think that seatbelt laws, et cetera, et cetera. I think that from my personal perspective, from looking at history, which again I know you're big on, it's pivotal. This is a pivotal moment. I think there's enough of us that are trying to do the right thing, that are really talking about the things that make sense. I think things like, I think COVID was really kind of a catalyst because it woke a lot of people up, and it woke a lot of people up in areas that can ultimately have that effect, right? You've got actuaries who are putting out data that talk about the long-term ramifications of COVID infections. You've got an overwhelming amount of evidence on the most studied topic, or most studied virus in human history, right? And talking about everything from the neurological damage to effect on kids to endothelial damage to
Blood vessels, right? Like
blood
everything.
vessels. Yeah, literally. And they're finally getting to the point where they're talking about, quote, airborne AIDS, right? So however you feel about that, but immune dysfunction, right? I mean, it's other viruses cause it as well, not just HIV. And so to me, this is a pivotal moment, but it takes people like you and Janelle and all of us to hang in there.
Right.
All of us, like you said, it's not sexy. This is not, it's just not, it's boring and rote, and it gets old hearing, we're in a cult and whatever else people say about us when
we're
we're
anxious.
just, we're
that's
anxious.
What my kids'
Yes.
principal told me that I'm just anxious, and that's why.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it's, but it takes the tenacity that you've clearly got, and that you've shown, and it takes the background work and the, putting these foundations in place. It'll happen. It will happen.
Sure.
Comparable to these others. So
I'm just trying to accelerate it. I know it's going to happen.
Yes.
I'm just trying to accelerate it, help us get there faster, so that we can just protect more people's health faster.
What do you think is the single thing we can do to accelerate it? Jeez.
Oh, that's a good question. Absolutely.
I mean, the big picture single thing we need is that we need an enforceable standard for indoor air quality in all spaces, but the specific, if we're talking just in schools, like schools need an enforceable, specific indoor air quality standard.
And by enforceable, you mean there'd be a legal outcome, or there'd be some other type of outcome?
Yes, because currently there is building code standards.
Sure. Yep.
But there is no accountability mechanisms that actually hold schools accountable to those standards.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So those standards need to be set at the state level, pretty much?
They are, yeah.
Do we have any indoor air quality standards or laws in California?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of states have them, and they're all different, and they're all across the board, everything from like CFM, like cubic feet per minute of fresh air coming in standards. And then there are some states who even just recently, within the last few months, set new air quality standards for temperature. That like the temperature in a classroom can't get above a certain degree. There are no enforceable mechanisms in place yet to enforce that. So that's what I'm saying. So people are like, we just need to get it into law. We need to get it into law. I was like, our laws, like, I don't love our air quality standards, like 15 CFM in California for building code, but like, it's not awful. But like, if we could even just get schools to get to that level, we would make a tremendous difference. It would improve things substantially. But here's the reality of the situation. The most comprehensive data we have available is that over 90% of schools are underventilated, like are not even meeting building code.
Is that in California or the United States? Or California?
That's in the United States.
Oh, okay.
That's the United States.
Oh my gosh.
And California's no different. Here's the thing. We don't even know in California, there's no statewide inventory as to which schools or how many schools even have HVAC systems.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody knows.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
So how are you even supposed to know, like, what kind of guidance or standards to set for them? Like, how to even begin? Because if a school doesn't even have an HVAC system, then all you have available to you is filtration.
Right.
And then that's completely different guidance, the different, like a different path of mitigation than if you have an HVAC system, but no one even knows. But every school needs HVAC systems, especially in California and everywhere else across the country, because, listen to me getting all fired up, because of the impacts of climate change. Because as things get hotter or colder, As we experience, I mean, we're literally recording this the day that Jamaica is being demolished. Absolutely pummeled, and my heart breaks for them and goes out to them, pummeled by a hurricane. These extreme weather events in California, we don't experience hurricanes, but we sure as heck experience wildfires. And those impact air quality in schools tremendously. We just experienced it with the big LA fires this last winter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
And
with
wildfires go
heat,
on. They go
oh
on
my
for
gosh,
so much
right?
of the year now. I keep reminding people,
Yeah.
I'm up here in Chico, California, and the town of Paradise
you
up
know,
the hill from me burned down 2 days after the November 2018 election. That's the first week of November, right? I mean,
in
that's,
November,
yeah,
right? And the
yeah,
big LA
Yep.
fires were in January. Like
right.
LA, like fire season is now year-round season. And so with extreme heats, with wildfires, as well as emerging pandemics and continuing pandemics, having HVAC systems is a non-negotiable moving forward. Schools have to have them. But how are they going to get them? Who's going to pay for that? Where's that money going to come from?
And California schools are they're strapped so badly already, right?
All schools and all across the United States. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like everyone's like, that's a big investment. And so, yeah, it's great. Like throw in some portable air cleaners for now.
Right.
But I
If
mean,
they let you. Right.
if they let you, but ultimately we need schools to have HVAC systems fully operable and maintained regularly. And we need a standard that can be enforced. But here is the word on the street in California. I can't name names, but nobody wants to be responsible for this.
So no politician wants to be
No
responsible.
agency.
No agency.
Agency wants to be in charge of setting the standard, writing the standard, and establishing the credibility protocols.
Why do you think that is? Because it seems, to us, obviously, it seems straightforward, right? Like, of course, I mean, I think you would, if you were the head of the agency, you'd be like, got it, let's do it, right?
It's a few things. One, some agencies don't have the money.
Sure.
Some agencies don't have the expertise.
Okay.
Some agencies don't have the staff. Like there are like budgets and funding cuts all over the place. Like it's just going to be one more thing they have to deal with and have to do in an understaffed agency as well.
When they feel like they can't handle the responsibilities that they've got already.
Exactly. And so you can think about each specific agency. You're like, so some people are like, oh, well, like the Department of Education, they should take this on.
Right.
Do you know how many industrial hygienists work for the Department of Education?
Zero.
Zero.
Right. Like they don't have building engineers, right? And so they aren't well positioned to take this on. And like, so we could go through like every state agency. And so like, there's that problem. Like who is going, like, even if we had the money, even if we had the standards, who is going to hold them responsible? And this is what I came up against as a parent advocating for my own kids' school, is that once I was able to collect the data and verify through my own expertise, my own efforts, that they were not adhering to building code, that they were in violation of the law, that they were also in violation of OSHA regulations and OSHA standards.
Right. Right.
There's no one to tell.
Right.
I'm just like standing there, like screaming into the void. There's nobody that I can go and report this to that's really actually going to do something with it. I just want people to understand like how, like the gravity of this situation. It's not like an easy flip the switch. I mean, it was an easy flip the switch for my school, like facilities director, to just flip on the HVAC system. Like I asked them to, like they're required by law to, but they wouldn't. So like having MERV 13 filters in your HVAC system is great if the HVAC system is turned on and actually moving air through those filters. Otherwise, it's just a decoration up in the vents.
And if it even exists, right? If it even exists. So what was there a particular argument for why they weren't turning on the HVAC system? Or was it just, oh, we forgot, or oh, we don't feel like it? Or
They would never answer that question for me, regardless of the number of times I spoke at board meetings and held meetings and rallied parents. My guess is that it's financial, because schools are strapped for money, and running the HVAC system continuously, as they are required by law in California. OSHA Regulation 5142 states that the HVAC system, which is part of California Ed Code 17661, if we want to get technical, that requires the HVAC system to be turned on. It's actually a workers' safety issue. It's like more so like for the teachers. So
It's
it
not
has
even
to be
about the
on.
kids. Yeah.
right, of course.
It's a workplace safety. But see, I'm in San Diego, and so we have temperate climate. We live in paradise. And so the old school thinking of your HVAC system's main purpose of functioning is just thermal comfort. It's just to keep you comfortable from a temperature perspective. And if you're already comfortable because it's 72 degrees year round, then you don't need to be turning it on. And so one of the major public health shifts, mindset shifts we need, is to see our air systems as serving the role of public health first. And comfort comes along with it.
So it sounds like a bit of lack of education, leadership, right? Because you would educate yourself on that. Maybe a little bit of liability, I guess, as far as, and then laziness. I mean,
Sure,
right?
like just
Right?
different
Because
priorities. Schools have not yet recovered, right? Because think about it. They went through all that chaos we talked about a few minutes ago, and teachers were like drowning. And then kids come back, and now they're having to manage the in-person, like whatever it is, the shields, the different supplies, and wiping down every single surface. And now all of a sudden the kids are having all these lagging academic skills that they're trying to like catch them up on. And now as kids continue to have repeated infections, now they're showing all the neurological impacts of long COVID that we're seeing in the children, that schools are labeling as bad behavior, poor attention, like the lockdowns.
residual effects of the lockdown.
Yes. And so I am just so eager. Someday, I'm speaking it into the microphone. Someday, schools will want to know. Someday they're going to want to know what actually is going on with these children and why they continue to struggle cognitively, behaviorally, mentally, emotionally since the start of this pandemic. And when they want to know, I am ready. I am ready to travel the world and to teach them what actually has been going on. And it's not because they stayed home for a handful of weeks 6 years ago.
Right. When some of them weren't even born, right?
Born.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about your struggles or your the way you interacted with your own school and school board, and what the responses to that activism was?
Yeah, that was a wild roller coaster. Right. So it's my kids went back I kept them home that whole school year, the first school year, and ran, because I work in education, I just ran a little school for some people in our community on our property, an outdoor school. And then I fell into the trap that the vaccines were going to save us. And so I was like, okay, my kids can be vaccinated soon. Everything's going to be fine soon. Ha, ha, ha. That didn't work out. And so it was fall of 2021 when my kids went back to school, and I'd sent them to a school that has a very strong focus on equity. And so before the school year started, I approached the principal and I immediately offered like $600 HEPA filters for every single classroom. This is before I even knew about Sierra boxes. I was like, I knew that it was going to be like an equity issue. And I was like, I'm going to buy them for all of them.
Right.
And
That's awesome.
so and the district said, no, they're dangerous. They're not
Dangerous.
helpful. Yeah, they move viruses in front of students and make them more likely to be sick. So that's like how it started.
Was that a facilities person? Was it an administrative person?
That was an administrative person.
Okay, so it was just this unofficial response, or sort of maybe more official response, not really clearly an uneducated response, but
they were in charge of like operations and facilities, but not like a facilities manager kind of
not
thing.
somebody who would understand.
Yeah. Clearly didn't understand.
Clearly,
yeah. And so then I started taking CO2 monitor, like sending CO2 monitors with my kids. They were taken away from my children and said they were not allowed to have them unless they had like a specific medical condition. So then I started sending them back
monitor,
to
just a little like AirNet.
Just a CO2 monitor. Yep.
They were taking. Wow.
Yep. They were told they had to like get out of the classroom, leave the classroom, put them in their backpacks out in the hallway. They could not have them inside the classroom. And I'm asking for all the assessment reports that apparently are being done on the school's HVAC system. Well, I requested those, I don't know, 5 years ago now. I still have not seen them. You know, they're like, oh, they're going to be posted on the website in like next week, 2 weeks, next month, 6 months. Still never seen them. So I don't even know what they did or what their assessments were. So I started gathering data on my own.
I'm guessing there's no accountability to enforce that either.
No, there isn't. There isn't. Okay, hold on. At the state level, there is something that in the Ed Code 17661, a report is supposed to be made available to the public upon request.
Right.
So you can request this report, but what we've learned is that the report actually doesn't exist. There's no form or actually a report form. So you'll get just like a stack of work orders and like maintenance things that have been done around the school. And so so that's something we're working on. That's kind of like where it started with my kids' school. And then Omicron came a few months later and it was disastrous. And finally, one of my kids' teachers, who I probably shouldn't say, okay, but one of my kids' teachers asked the principal, said, hey, I've got a parent who wants to give me a HEPA filter. I really want to have it in my classroom. Can I please have it? And so that's the angle that worked. I started going top down, started at the district level, at the principal level. What ended up working was actually going bottom up and working with the individual teachers, because they're the ones who get sneezed on, coughed on. They're the ones who are getting sick all the time. And no one likes that. Teachers, we don't like being sick all the time. It's miserable. Creating substitute teacher plans is like the worst thing in the world for a teacher. It's like so awful. And we just we love what we do. We love being with our kids. We want to be there. We want to teach them. And so I finally got some HEPA filters inside my kids' classrooms. And then over the months, over the years, I was able to get CR boxes. I paid and built them all myself. That 1 year I built myself. Another year I hosted an event where I brought in the parents and the kids after school. We built them and delivered them to all the classrooms. And so things were going really well and we were having success, and I was able to take CO2 monitors into the classrooms and the teachers were asking about it and wondering. I even got to do a 1-hour training with the staff to help them learn how to get better air quality. We're an outdoor school. Nice. It was an outdoor school. So you can just open the doors and you get fresh air. And we would get this great breeze coming up off the ridge from the ocean. And you could get some decent air in there. But they didn't know. And so they're closing the doors because it's noisy in the hallway. And, classrooms are getting barely 1 air change per hour. Barely 1 air change per hour. But you open a door and a window and you turn on a CR box and actually turn the HVAC system on, and you could get over 10.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You could get over 10 with doing nothing. Flipping the switch to on and turning on the CR box that I provided. I then became the PTA president and was championing for these things, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, as waves would come and go, because I have a high risk kid and because I don't want any of my kids to get this disastrous virus, I would keep my kids home. Whenever cases were over 1 million new cases per day in the United States, that was our family's threshold. It was the best data I had available. And so once we reached that threshold, we would stay home. I had a doctor's note for it, outlining it. And we would like do a quick transition to homeschooling. I am a world-renowned educator. My kids are beyond grade level. They did just fine. We did amazing projects at home. I'd submit their things to their teachers. Their teachers were like, oh my gosh, I want to do this with all my kids. Can I do the same project? So I'm teaching the teachers while I'm keeping my kids at home. And then the district caught word that I was keeping my kids home. And because they were hurting financially, because their ESSER funds had run low, and I have 3 children, and 3 children being gone for long periods of time, if we get into a long wave, really costs them a lot of money. And so we were invited, in quotes, to a meeting, and we were told that if our children miss one more day of school, that they will be expelled, that they'll be unenrolled from public school.
That's crazy.
And I said, you are violating.
You said, peace.
I said, you are violating the building code.
Yeah.
You are violating OSHA regulations.
Yep.
You are not adhering to my child's IEP. You will not consider the doctor recommendations and requirements that their pediatrician is stating needs to happen for this kid. We just have different understandings and different tolerance of risk. I was like, no, this isn't about risk. You're just really anxious, Liesl. No.
Wow.
Building codes are not.
And you didn't lose it.
Anxiety.
You didn't lose it.
Oh no.
Oh my God. Oh.
I don't know what you mean by lose it, but I
would have lost it. I'd have been like,
I didn't scream, I didn't yell, I didn't say any curse words, but I did say things like, you do understand that you are about to expel a disabled child because you're unwilling to follow the law.
That's crazy.
And I don't know why you think it's okay for you to break the law. And then you claim that we are breaking the law and that you can then expel 3 children from school. And so we didn't send him to school the next day.
I remember talking to you the week before then.
And they expelled him.
They expelled them. Yeah.
Obviously, that's hugely impactful to you and your kids. As a huge understatement. I guess to me, the mindset of doing that doesn't make sense in any capacity, right? Because was it a pegged out, did they not have open slots and they're like, well, then we can have 3 other children come in? Or do you think it was, so that's more what it was?
Yeah. So in California, you get money by the number of people enrolled in your school and by the number of people who are attending every single day. So daily attendance matters in California. So, they could fill those seats with other people who would show up and send their sick kids to school. It was the bull. And there was so much that was going on. I just want people to know, my children still to this day do not know that they were expelled from school. My children believe, maybe someday I will tell them when I feel like they are mature enough to be able to handle that level of trauma. Right. But right now my husband and I are carrying that for them, and they believe that they have chosen a different path that we're taking right now with their education. And so my kids are doing phenomenal. They're thriving. It's we're not going to get into that, but I just want everyone to know my kids are oh my gosh, going from being the marginalized child, being the one who's bullied, having their mask ripped off their face. My 5-year-old had his mask ripped off his face and ripped off so hard.
Wow.
Pulling on their lanyard straps, just the teasing and bullying and not having friends because they were the weird ones, protecting their brother who is high risk and their own selves.
And themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And themselves. And now,
you and their teachers
everybody. And now for them to be in a community where they have so many friends They have been invited to more birthday parties since they've been expelled than they were in the 5 years previously. Like, my children are doing phenomenal, but it
You
doesn't,
found like a community of other
yeah,
folks who are keeping their kids home from school and homeschooling them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And but I will continue to fight for all of our children, because I'd love for my kids to be back in public schools. Like, I believe in public schools. It's who I work with. And but I'm not going to have them there at their expense, you know. And so, but I will continue to work to make schools safer for all of our children. And my story is horrible and traumatic, but it's, unfortunately, it's not unique. Like, there are so many other families who either have had to choose this from the early stage of the pandemic or at some other phase, to have to choose an alternative path to education because schools are not safe from from a public health perspective, specifically around airborne viruses.
Someone said this a long time ago on Twitter, and it's resonated with me quite specifically, just because, as we move into the future, we need kids who are going to be resilient against this type of pressure, right? I mean, this is, having been through a lot of stuff historically and big things like 9/11, yada, 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 the resilience it takes to not take that and carry that burden with you, or carry it, but recognize it for what it is. And for, us as parents to instill in our children the ability to be immune to the most part that they can, to peer pressure, and also not have neurological, be affected in this way. These are the types of leaders if humanity's going to exist, these are the types of leaders we're going to need, and for us to get through these next phases, because
Absolutely.
COVID is generational. It's going to have a 40-50 year impact at the very least, most likely, from my perspective, if not longer, depending on how much we want to continue to ignore it. But we need these, but we need these children to really be immune to, and not from COVID, I mean, which would be nice, but we really need them to be immune from the types of pressure that people are putting on us as a society writ large, right? Like, there are many millions of us who recognize what's happening, many tens of millions, if not hundreds. We have to stay the course, right? I mean, it is what it is. And it's weird because, and I don't want to ramble on, but I will, because I do that. It's, conspiratorial. Like, historically, I would think this is a conspiratorial stance, right? Like, oh my God, it's weird that the whole world is like, blah, 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 right? And so, but it is just what it is. The data speaks for itself. There's again more data about, there's more data about the harms of COVID than there is about basically anything else we've ever studied in the history of humanity. And it's so weird and so surreal and so upside down land, and so whatever you want to call it, that we're all in this position, but not throw all of that onto our small children, right? And burden them with it,
right,
while they're having to deal with all these people who are crazily pulling their lanyards and ripping their masks off. I mean, it's this constant struggle of how do you guide them through it, to the best that we can, while not scarring them, right? So
that's for the parenting podcast of how the heck do we parent our children
through
this wild, wild world? How much do we expose them to? How much do we protect them from? At what age? Like, that's just something that we're constantly trying to figure out in our family. But and I also just want to acknowledge the tremendous privilege that we have to be able to pursue an alternative education for our children. And I recognize there's so many families who do not have that opportunity. And
that's heartbreaking, really. That,
oh my gosh, it motivates me to keep going, to keep fighting, and to want to move faster to get to some of the goals that we're working on here in California, because California needs to lead the way. California usually leads the way, and we believe we're well positioned. And Janelle and I feel that weight, and we feel that responsibility. We feel that privilege to be pioneers in this space and to keep moving forward in a strategical, meaningful, sustainable way so that it will actually make the lasting impact that we want it to.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it sounds like you feel like your best success was from going ground up, like you said, bottom up with the individual teachers and the individual classrooms. Is that what you would recommend for other parents who are trying to make change at their school?
I think it's a great place to start. Here's why. I think it's the place where parents have the greatest opportunity to build a relationship built on allyship. And because they're most closely connected to children and their hearts are really, really close to these kids. And the further you get away from the kids, there's just like degrees of separation from the realities of what the kids
that makes
are
sense.
experiencing.
And hopefully the parents already have a relationship with the teachers already, right? Like hopefully.
Right. And so, but on occasion you'll find a teacher who has views or biases that make them a difficult ally to the cause. And some people have had better luck, like with the principal or with the facilities director or just someone on facilities. So I always say, like, try with the teacher first. Mm-hmm. And then if that doesn't seem to be getting traction, then just find, like, it's just kind of like a guess and check game of like, who is because who can be an ally? Like, yeah, who's curious, who already cares, or who's curious enough to listen to you, to care, who's in a position to be able to do something about it. Like, I think back and I wonder if I had gone to someone on the facilities team first. I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone that angle instead of going top down, because I got blacklisted really early on. I wonder, like, I just like there's wonderings because I pushed really hard, and so there isn't like I have not come across like, oh, here is like the first 4 chess moves.
Blueprint.
Those first 4 chess moves you always do.
The blueprint, yeah.
Right. Is find your ally, whoever the ally is, work with the ally.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
And then that's kind of like the 5-step process I've outlined on my website of like how to advocate. Like, step 1 is to foster a relationship with your ally. Like, find the ally and build a relationship with them. Like, truly, really care about them as a person and get to know them. And then find out like what matters to them. If it's a principal, is it attendance rates? Is it test scores? If it's a facilities person, is it they feel so diminished in their role that they're just like, oh, you just like clean up the school? Do they just like not feel valued? Do they need to see themselves as the most significant person on campus that impacts student health? More than anybody else, the facilities manager has the greatest impact on student health. More than like they're even pediatrician who like might see them a couple times a year. Like, the facilities person has such an impact. Like, do they just like, what is it that they value? What's the teacher value? Does the teacher value their own health because they're pregnant, or because they live in a multi-generational home and they live with like their mom who's going through cancer treatment? Like, whatever it is, find out what matters to them. And that's the door that you go in through. And then you can't just like speaking in like hypotheticals and narratives. I think you really have to get some data. You've got to be able to get some data from the classroom. You've got to figure out what the CO2 levels are. You've got to figure out what their air changes are. You've got to figure out what kind of filters they have if they have an HVAC system. And then you got to be able to connect the two things, connect the data with what their personal values are. And that's the marriage that starts to move things forward.
What do you think the importance of this is? Because it's one of the things that we've been trying to think about how to message, which is the ROI, right? So what is the ROI of spending X for energy, right, by turning on the HVAC system versus, you're having to pay for substitutes, having to have these kids not be in school, et cetera, et cetera. And so have you run across, and I'm asking this selfishly because I've been looking for it. Have you run across like kind of concrete numbers that can help? You know what I mean? Like as an average, in California, you've got X number of kids per classroom, you've got X number of classrooms per school, and you've got X number of, XX and X, probably not, but X, Y, Z number of absences, and M and N for teachers' absences, et cetera. And that, you can take that, formalize it, and really figure out the ROI, right? Like if you just did this, you would be saving this much, or you would be having this. And so it's more like taking away from the health aspects, which are the most important things to me, but that's not the most important thing to, the administrator that you're talking about, who's got to get, kids in seats, right? Something. So I don't know if you've run across, and it was a long-winded way of asking that question, but,
Let me tell you what I do. There's a lot we don't have research on yet. But Richard Bruns wrote an article, maybe you're familiar with it, a couple of years ago in an ASHRAE magazine or ASHRAE journal that ran some numbers on the ROI around like the 8-fold return on society for improving indoor air quality. Now, you might not find a teacher or principal that really cares about that. You got to remember, what do they care about? So the key is to find out what they care about. Now, to find out what they care about, one strategy is to go to your school board meetings, to tune into your school board meetings virtually or go in person and listen to what they're worried about. And it's going to depend. Every school's a little bit different. Like a lot of schools right now are concerned about student absences and teacher absences. That's a big thing. Test scores are always a thing, right? Yeah, I know. I wonder why. And so, but like, what's the concern right now that they're panicking about? And the school board meetings will almost always reveal that to you. Okay. And then it's a fishing game to go look through the research and see if there's something. I was just talking to Dr. Corsi this morning in a different meeting, and we were talking about the lack of research connecting indoor air quality in schools to some of the metrics that schools care about. There's a lot of great research that's in the works right now from different researchers around the country working on things. But it's kind of like if A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C kind of game that we're playing right now around, well, we know that if we do this with the air system, that we're going to have this much more fresh air. And we know we have more fresh air, then this decreases or has this impact. And so there's still a lot of gaps in the education research for schools around directly connecting better indoor air quality to attendance.
Quantifiable outcomes, right?
Quantifiable. Yeah. We know like all of the pieces are in there. There just isn't a ton of robust research on that.
Got it.
I'm working on it.
Oh,
yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're working
so
on it.
Something that maybe to try and pull all this together, if you could redesign a school from the ground up with air quality in mind,
Yes.
what would you make mandatory and what would you ban immediately?
I mean, it's going to be different if the school's in San Diego versus like in Las Vegas, right?
Sure.
And so depending on what's right. Yeah. I mean,
No, I was going to say there's no roulettes in the one in San Diego.
Yes. But I was speaking to a teacher recently. I won't give details, but a teacher at a school in a place that gets really, really hot, like it gets triple digits for months. And they're getting recordings of over 4,000 ppm on their CO2 monitors.
Ooh, wow.
Like that's insane.
That's insane. That
If
is
someone
absolutely
comes in
insane.
there,
Well, you could see that, and you could probably see that air, right? I mean, that's so it's so
like it
terrible.
is, it's and she was asking for advice, and I was like, you know what? I don't know. I'm not there. I can't see anything. I was like, what's the decay levels? Like when you come in first thing in the morning or over the weekends, like when you look at your data through the weekends, like what's happening? Like how fast is it getting down to normal levels? She says, it never does. It like will get down to like 800 ppm. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it's so sealed tight. The air is just staying in there for days. And I was like, I don't know, but here's like my guess. My guess is, like tell your facilities manager you're doing a project on air quality with the kids. They're interested in a science project. I was like, ask if you can like do a tour with the students up on the roof and look at those handlers and see if those dampers are totally shut
Right.
and they're
Right.
not bringing in any outdoor air
Yeah.
because it's too expensive to cool it when it's triple digits.
Sure.
I was like, you might just be recycling your indoor air completely and not bringing in any fresh outdoor air. So I say that to say, like, as an example, because what I would build would depend on the climate that we're in. But first of all, every school needs to have like state of the art HVAC systems, like really good HVAC systems. And then even then, it might not and probably won't be enough. You're going to need some portable air cleaners in there as well. And so I'd want those HVAC systems to have dampers set that they turn on when the CO2 levels get over 800 ppm. Like they start bringing in automatically fresh indoor air, but you have some packs, some portable air cleaners running consistently. I love CR boxes. I love Corsi Rosenthal boxes. I think that they can be running consistently on low and providing like over 400 CFM. Like there's nothing that moves air like a Corsi Rosenthal box. Like nothing can move air that well, that fast, filter it so much, keep it on low. It's not so noisy when it's on low, and let it clean those airs. I mean, if your outdoor air is clean and if it's at a temperature that is tolerable, then open those windows, open those doors, get the air moving.
And make sure that the school is built with windows that can be opened. I mean, I'm assuming that some schools don't have windows that can be opened. Correct.
Get a ceiling fan in there, just like mixing. Get the air mixing so it can be moving through your HVAC system, through those portable air cleaners. Like, I get that HVAC systems are expensive, but like throwing in a ceiling fan, throwing in like a CR box, these are not expensive things. Like, come on, people, let's go. I would love for schools to have like over 10 ACH, right? Like, that'd be amazing. I mean, if we could just even get them to CDC guidance or CDPH guidance of like over 5, over 6, we're going to be seeing significant improvements because like most of them are like at 1 or 2 right now.
That's crazy.
That is
and we
crazy.
wonder why we always see these massive spikes right when school starts and we start putting all the kids back into the classrooms. It is not rocket science, folks.
It is not rocket science. Yep. It is physics, but not rocket science.
Yes.
Right.
A little bit of brain science in there, but not rocket science, whatever that really is. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to like educate and empower people. We're trying to get the attention of politicians and legislators to care about this issue. And sometimes it means we don't say the C word, at least not the COVID word, the other C word, climate change. And we talk about, extreme heat and wildfire smoke and try to get them to see the importance of having healthy indoor air in schools.
Yeah, it's interesting. Why don't people care as much, right? Because we're working on some stuff and just in general, like you're not going to go drink sewage water, right? And it's a visual thing. It's a smell thing, which, really comes from the air. Is it just because people have no ability to visualize? Is it because they just take it for granted? Is it, and, trying to think back again to like other public health movements, like if you walked into a room and it just smelled like if there was an odor to COVID, right? And it smelled like rotten milk,
Yep.
right? And it was just like everywhere. And there's other ways of trying to think about how people might take it seriously. People would take it seriously, right? Like if it literally COVID smelled like rotten milk, people would want to clean the air because it's a visceral kind of reaction to it. And
Or if it created some kind of visible feature on your body.
Like if it made like a color, like if it was
Some
like
kind of props
green or
something.
blue in the air, right? Like,
or if you got sick and you had pustules and like, you know, it just,
exactly.
like this.
So like
But
the
here's the thing,
visual
Tars.
nature of being sick with COVID might be like the fact that there's no visual cues, right?
If your blood vessels were on the outside of your body,
Oh,
you could
that
see
would be
what's happening to your blood vessels. Then maybe, but it doesn't. But here's the thing, like, yes, it's an issue. Like air is invisible, and that's part of the challenge that we have all taken on as advocates in this space. But again, we can think back and look back to history, and water is also invisible. No, scratch that. Water's clear. Okay, water's clear. So when I do trainings with schools, like I was just at an unnamed school district where we are starting to do some of this research, and I was training the staff on the importance of indoor air quality. I started the whole training, the whole thing. I started with a glass of water. And I said, hey, I know it's a little bit of a warm day today. It looks like some of you brought water bottles. That's great. But in case any of you didn't bring a water bottle, if anybody gets thirsty, I want you to like, I grabbed a cup of water here that if anybody needs it, you can come and like take this water. In case you're wondering, I just like filled it up from like the fountain that's out there in front of the building. I just kind of like scooped up some water from out of that fountain. I'm not sure exactly where the water came from, but like, that's where the water, if you're thirsty, you can come and drink it. And everyone just like makes this face like, oh, sick. I'm not going to drink that.
Right. Yep.
Because we have learned that just because the water looks clear in a glass doesn't necessarily mean that that water is clean and filtered and void of any pathogens that could harm me.
Right.
And that's the education that's needed, that just because my office here is filled with air doesn't, like invisible air I can't see, doesn't mean it's safe and healthy for me to breathe in. And I found that like exercise to be really powerful as a way to segue into, hey, the same is with our air. You want to know how much stuff is in your air? Well, look at this little machine I have right here. Let's talk about PM 2.5.
And then mic drop, right? Like
yeah.
Class dismissed.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've always thought about showing it with stuff in it, right? Like so you can actually see. And it'd be interesting to highlight, sort of the, things that are actually in water after it's been clear. I'm thinking in a different vein. So I'll circle back after we're done here.
The younger generation, they care about this. They know about this from a climate perspective because they grew up through a pandemic. Like they understand and they live it. They're in schools every day. They're watching the kid next to them come to school, like hacking, sneezing, coughing, super sick. Because like I was just in a school recently and this kid was like doing all this stuff. And the kid next to him was like, man, are you okay? And the kid's like, no, bro, I'm not okay. But I had to be here for this quiz today. Like they know that this stuff is happening all the time. The kids are pressured to be at school for attendance reasons, for academic reasons. They don't want to miss the test. And they see that like a few days later, a bunch of the kids in the class are sick now too. Like they know what happens.
I think that will do it for tonight. Thank you so much for coming, Lisa. This has been a really terrific conversation. We're so excited about your work.
Thank you for having me on. And thank you so much for the great work that you guys are doing at FAN and all the support that you're providing for people who are looking for ways to protect their health and to make the world a safer place for others.
I mean, again, to reiterate, it's not easy, right? This is a marathon. And so to the extent that we can lean on each other, piggyback off each other, support each other in every single way that we can. I mean, I think that's really the crux of what the movement needs, right? And what we're all, hopefully going to be able to do, because it's easy to burn out, right? I mean,
Yes,
it just takes a lot.
it
So
really is. And what my journey has taught me is, like, remember I started I was just a passive consumer of information until I found my lane and I realized, oh my gosh, I can do something here. And so maybe we can just leave everybody with an invitation to just pause and reflect on what are your talents and strengths and where is a place that you can contribute. And if you're like, I'm really good at like website stuff, reach out. Like, we'd love to have someone help us with our website stuff. I'm not a web designer. Whatever your skill set is, like, find people and find ways to use what you do have as strengths to help this movement, because we do need to stick together. We do need to work together. It's going to take all of us. And the more of us working on it, the faster we can get to success. Yeah.
It seems like pretty much every school district could probably use like a clean air advocacy organization just focused on that school district, right? And every organization they need a website, they need communications people, they need technical people, they might need legal people, they need people who are teachers and students who have that experience. So yeah, there's a lot of ways people can plug in.
Right. I mean, I'm having a meeting here in just like 45 minutes. I'm going to start another meeting with youth. Like, I'm actually we are bringing in youth into this campaign to help us run it and lead it. We want to listen to their voices. So speak out, find your lane, find your strengths, and let's keep working together.
Amazing.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks so much, Liesl.
Amazing.
Good to have you here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Have a great night.
All right.